shopping. Teachers themselves are saying, no, there's training, and also it'll help facilitate effectively the track and trace they have to provide for pupils and their families. Steve in Cardiff, where are you on this, Steve? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. How are you?
I'm all right, actually, sir. Thank you.
Jolly good. One day, we're talking about one day next week. I'm here to tell you that we got a letter down here in Cardiff that the school that my son goes to, we got it last Friday to inform us that today is the last day in school. And from today, and from tomorrow we go to remote learning for the rest of the school term. So that means 7 days that parents have to find to take off. I'm not having a go at the teachers. The teachers are in the middle of this, and it's the local government and it's the Welsh government that are calling the shots here. But we've had packs that are sent home. So my concern is not only do parents have to find days to take off, they actually have to be involved in the teaching as well. So if you are working from home, this summer, you actually have to take time off to actually educate the children as well.
And how much notice did you get that they were going to close?
The letter is dated the 4th of December.
That is outrageous.
Yeah. I mean, I know the teachers down here, and they know that parents are going to go bonkers over this, and it's not their fault. And they won't be doing these shopping days and things like that. But what I'm definitely in the camp of this is really going against the key workers that have to find time off, and not only find time off but actually educate the kids in 7 days.
Lastly, broadly speaking, how would you say the Welsh administration has handled the COVID crisis? Not great, if I'm honest with you. I think the teachers have handled it brilliantly. They have checks on temperatures going into the staff every day. They alert people. But as for the actual senior management of education, I think they could have done a lot better. Steve, thanks for that. That's a real... what a wake-up for some parents having to race around and sort that out. Thank you for all of that. More on this in a moment. Let's move on to other stories, or in a sense we come back, because we did look at this the first hour when we heard the news that Steve Thompson, the England rugby ace from 2003, diagnosed with early onset dementia, joining a group of former players in a potentially landmark legal action for the sport. We played this in the first hour, just to remind you a little of what Mr. Thompson has said.
The World Cup period, I can't even remember being in Australia, and I'm watching the games, and I'm just thinking, it's as if I'm watching the England team now. I'm on the pitch, but I cannot remember being there at all. What have I done with my kids and my wife now? What am I going to put them through? Lads are still getting away with elbowing people in the head and things like that. And when you see that, you look at it and think, is the game going soft? It's not about being soft. You could still have a great game of rugby, but you've just got to keep the players safe. The amount of contact they're doing during the weeks as well for training, because that's where we've done most of the contacts. It was just mindless. For me, I don't want the game to stop, but it's just everyone at the top just looking down, saying the main asset of this lovely game are the players, and we've got to make sure we treat them like that. We don't treat them like bits of meat.
Well, let's talk to one of the players. James Simpson-Daniel played with Steve Thompson for England, also played with Gloucester, and joins me now. I've watched you play. It's a privilege to have you on the line, James. Thank you for coming on. How can we preserve the game, but obviously take out these potential dangers in your view? Good morning.
Good morning, Steve. Yeah, I think the point that Tomo is trying to get to there is, I think he just wants to see the players manage better, and I think he's saying, let's not change the game of rugby. It's a contact sport, that's what it's all about. As you mentioned, Nick, I was a winger.
Yes.
My job was to stay away from contact as
absolutely. But just to look good, and you did it very well.
Yeah, well, I tried. A lot of that was fear. But looking in at the forwards and the pack especially, these guys are going seriously bone on bone on Saturdays, but it's not just about then, it's about... You lose a game to, it's a local dog. We lose to Bath, for example, on Saturday. You're in for it next week. You do your analysis, but you know that come Tuesday, Wednesday, when your body's supposedly recovered from the game, which it nowhere near has, you're going to go out there and be bone on bone on the training paddock. So I think what Tom is trying to say there is, look, we're almost playing, sometimes we're almost feeling like we're playing 2 games a week, because we'll have a hard Saturday, and then if it's not gone well, or sometimes if it has gone well, we'll then do it all again on a Wednesday or a Tuesday, and the body's just never getting time to recover, and it's almost a knock-on effect of all these bangs that you get here and there, and especially the forwards. Every time they pack down for a scrum,
yes.
Look at their faces and their ears. That's a tell in itself.
Yes.
But this is the thing that I think he's alluding to most, and clearly, he's 42, I'm 38. and he's trying to point out that already he can't remember what should be that golden era of his career when he went out and won the World Cup in Australia.
Now, a coach might say, James, I hear what you say, but how am I going to prep my scrum if I don't have them do it on a Wednesday and they turn out on a Saturday? How would you respond to that?
I think what I'd say to that, not that I'd have any idea about a scrum, but I think my response to that would be, they use scrummage machines. The question would be if they need to go live scrummaging, for example, you limit the amount you do. You might not do it in 100% where you're trying to literally push the person back and make him curl up into a ball at the scrum. You do the technique side of it, and there is scrummaging machines. But I think what Tomo's on about there, it's almost, he's saying, let's not go from the big scrummage, for example, on the Wednesday straight into a full-on defence session where it is 15 on 15, and you've got the guys that have not been selected for that weekend want to go out there and make a point on the Wednesday to show the coaches that they made the wrong decision. And you do get that a lot, and I've been on that side of it.
Well,
you do get the guys that want to almost show the coach what for.
We've joked about you being on the wing, but out there you blokes have to put in some pretty ferocious tackles. And Steve Thompson talks about it, he would actually feel dizzy after training and see white spots. Presumably, I appreciate again, but you do put in the tackles. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever been sort of come round and felt dizzy and nauseous?
Yeah, and I think this is a point, we did make the joke, but my
Yes!
I mean, positive or negative, Jason? What did you get?
This is a story across the country. There are so many teachers isolating and ill with COVID that we seriously do not have enough teachers anyway. I would absolutely give them the Friday off, called the COVID day, and I'd also give them the Thursday and the Wednesday off as well.
Oh,
so the kids can self-isolate 10 days before Christmas Day. So the grandparents can have the kids.
Jason, you've gone bonkers.
Thank you.
Many children have missed out on so much education. I can see the argument for the Friday, but taking Wednesday, I mean, let's just let them go home now. Where does it all? We've got to get education into these children, Jason.
Absolutely we do. Absolutely we do. But as you say, it's extremely unusual circumstances.
I agree.
Right now. They've missed so much this year.
Yeah, well, that's just why we don't give them Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday as well off. Come on.
But to allow grandparents to hug their kids at Christmas, the kids can self-isolate for 10 days before Christmas Day.
What?
You can then have people actually, humanity, bringing back a little bit.
Look after yourself in Grays, Jason. Thank you for that. Let's see if others agree. Oh, gosh, Jason the second. Who knew? Jason, another Jason in Sheffield. Good morning. I don't think I've ever had a brace.
Good morning, Nick.
I've never had a brace of Jasons, if you'll pardon the expression. Now, where are you on teachers getting this inset day to go shopping? Joking, inset day.
Right. Well, it's inset day, but there's a lot of confusion at the moment. So I have two kids that go to one school.
Yep.
It's One Academy Trust, and then their mom is a teacher in another school at a different Academy Trust. Now, they're discussing it this morning at their school. We haven't had any information either way, but it looks like the mother's Academy Trust is keeping the school open as normal.
Right, okay.
Now I work in the AGC sector, so we're all my sites are in the three.
Sorry, what's AGC? I'm so sorry, I don't know what
Adult gaming centres.
Adult gaming centres, right. Okay.
Yeah, so they were originally classed as non-essential retail, and then at the 11th hour the government reversed that decision, and where we were meant to open on the 4th of July back then, we ended up getting 2 days notice that we weren't opening. Now there's a chance that we may next week, and that's how this affects me on the childcare front, but we haven't had that information yet either. So all that would happen is if the mother's school carries on without the inset day, I would have to book a day's holiday.
Of course, you're trying to obviously the business keeping going as well. Jason, thank you. Best of luck to you. I think you're first time. Great to have you on board. Finishing to get 30 seconds to Gary in Bromley. Gary, now you just heard from your son's school. Is that right? What have you heard? Good morning.
Yeah, morning, Nick. We got an email last week. We've got one boy in year 5. He got told to have 2 weeks off due to COVID, so he was due to go back on the 16th of November. So basically, have the last 3 days at school. We got an email last night saying that the whole school is closed as of today.
So when will he go back then?
The Minister is preparing for a face-to-face meeting with the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. There are still disagreements on fishing rights, competition rules and the governance of any deal. Mr Gove says individual EU states need to recognise the UK's position.
I hope that there'll be a realisation on the part of the EU side that they do need to move. I know that President Ursula von der Leyen has a good relationship with Boris, and I therefore think that over the hours that they'll be together, she will want to understand exactly where movement needs to come.
In separate talks yesterday, the two sides reached agreement on trading and border rules for Northern Ireland. Ministers have confirmed they will now withdraw controversial measures which could have broken international law. Campaigners are warning poorer countries are at risk of being left without COVID-19 vaccines. The People's Vaccine Alliance says wealthy countries have bought up enough doses to immunise their entire populations nearly 3 times. Some nations will only be able to offer the jab to 1 in 10 people next year. Government climate advisors say the sale of gas boilers should be phased out by 2033. Little progress has been made on tackling emissions from buildings, which account for nearly a fifth of climate pollution. The Committee on Climate Change says the UK should aim to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 78% over the next 14 years. Mike Thompson is the group's Director of Analysis.
The next decade has to be a really decisive shift for the UK. By the early 2030s, every new investment that we're making, every car that we buy, every boiler that we replace, it's going to have to be low carbon. And we've got to do that to meet this new target.
UEFA has begun an investigation after a match official allegedly made a racial slur during a Champions League game. Istanbul Başakşehir and Paris Saint-Germain walked off the pitch in protest last night. The rest of the game will be played later. In the city a short time ago, the FTSE was trading up 29 at 65.88. The pound buys $1.33 at €0.10.
LBC weather.
Homes. Help is at hand this winter.
Cloudy in the east with mostly light rain and drizzle. Brighter spells moving eastwards for a time, but thicker cloud with rain arriving in the west during the day. Still quite chilly for many, a high of 10 Celsius. From Global's newsroom, I'm Thomas Watts.
Miss being spontaneous? Like driving around the city at night, taking a trip to the sea to watch the sunrise, or going skinny dipping in a moonlit pond? If so, get behind the wheel of the new Seat Ateca, a stylish, spacious and versatile SUV featuring 18-inch alloy wheels, full LED headlights and satellite navigation. Yours to drive for just £239 per month, with an initial rental of £1,044. Go on, you know you want to. The new Seat Ateca. Live large.
40-month contract hire, 10,000 miles per annum. Damage charges may apply. No ownership. Order by 16th of December. Seat Financial Services. Visit seat.co.uk.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
Morning, 4 minutes after 9 on Wednesday, December the 9th. Coming up now, a very tough conversation. The suggestion or the campaign, end-of-life patients should be given priority access to the COVID vaccine. Do you agree? You'll hear from someone who regrettably touched it all too personally. Meanwhile, in other news, the Equality Street, the Labour Council in Birmingham, planning to use names for developments for a new housing area. Equality Road, a Diversity Grove and Humanity Close. Woke or right? Plus, we go back to the schools, pupils eating food with their fingers because the school has scrapped cutlery as they deem it unsafe. Presumably they have heard of dishwashers.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
I sense this conversation is not for the faint-hearted. A campaign for end-of-life patients to be given priority access to COVID vaccine. Now backed by a number of charities and some politicians. Right at the heart of it, a gentleman from whom you'll hear in a moment, Fred Banning, who I can tell you is a marketing executive. He's 38. And he was diagnosed earlier this year with stage 4 cancer. He's 2 young children. Starting this campaign, and now charities I mentioned, Cancer Support Scotland, Marie Curie and the Beaton Cancer Charity uniting to support his campaign. I'm pleased to say Mr. Banning joins me now. Thank you for coming on the line, sir. Do you mind if I ask a couple of details? You have a family. Can you tell us a little bit about the ages of your children? Morning.
Morning, Nick. Yes, I have 2 young children under the age of 10. I'm afraid I'm deliberately being a little bit circumspect about what I've put into the public domain about them. But,
that'll do it. That's absolutely right. So, you were diagnosed in February. Do you mind asking what the cancer is?
Yeah, no problem. It's bowel cancer.
And do they give an indication of how much longer you're with us, sir?
Well, at the point of diagnosis, I was told that without treatment, I would have 9 months left. I've subsequently begun chemotherapy, or been having chemotherapy pretty much ever since. And my understanding is that things become very much more uncertain at that point. So it's, it's how long is a piece of string.
I see. Okay. And how are you feeling at this time? Are you feeling fairly good at the moment?
Yes, pretty good. I'm due for my next round of chemotherapy tomorrow, or on Friday, so it tends to be that towards the end of the cycle I kind of pick up a little bit and get a bit back to normal.
A lot of people are joining in, a lot of organisations and people are joining in with your campaign, Mr. Banning. What is it you're seeking?
Yeah, well, I guess it's 2 things really. Firstly, to get some reassurance from parliamentarians that all of these kinds of exceptions and unusual circumstances have been flushed out as the JCVI has been considering prioritisation. But perhaps more crucially and more urgently, I'd really like to have a conversation with Matt Hancock to seek clarification on where exactly those with terminal illnesses stand within the hierarchy, and also whether he agrees with me that there is a case, a humanitarian case, for prioritising those who perhaps don't have long left to live.
Currently, where do you understand people such as yourself are in the rankings or the grades?
Yeah, so I believe we're in the, I think it's the third tier. So effectively, the over 75s and those who are considered to be clinically vulnerable, I think is the terminology.
So that looks like what the early part, back end of quarter one of next year, sort of February, March, then roughly.
I mean, your guess will be as good as mine, because I think there seems to be uncertainty around when doses get delivered. But I think that the crucial bit is within that clinically vulnerable group. That is effectively, as I understand it, everybody who is shielding over the last several months, which equates to about 2.2 million people.
Tough question to ask, but what you're saying is you should go ahead perhaps of a very fit 80-year-old grandfather or mother.
No,
sorry, I don't want to be offensive to you in any way, but
not at all.
Okay, good, thank you.
I'm British, right? So jumping the queue is absolutely the last thing I want to do. But really, what this is about is asking the question of our elected representatives: have you thought about this issue?
Yeah.
Can you give some reassurance? I think what concerns me is looking at what I've seen so far coming out of government. It looks to me like there is a very sensible and effective strategy for pushing down the death rate. But as I say, does that really take into account these slightly unusual circumstances?
Yeah.
And what bothers me is that notion that parliamentarians, I fear, may abdicate responsibility on occasion. This is exactly what we have elected representatives for.
What would an extra 12 months with your wife and 2 children under the age of 10 mean to you, Mr. Banning?
Well, look, I suspect that's probably more than I can dream of, but it's what I can actually do with those 12 months or however long I have left. It's at the start of all of this, we had big plans around, maybe taking the kids to Lapland at Christmas or doing big holidays, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's all gone out the window. But, I think if anything, lockdown has taught us to appreciate the smaller things more. And for me, it's things like being able to do the school run without feeling like I'm kind of exposing myself to a lot of risk. Likewise, going to the supermarket, going out for a meal, these kind of little day-to-day things that, a year ago we would have all taken for granted suddenly feel, when you don't have an immune system, they feel like a big deal.
So just to conclude, do you think you should go ahead? I appreciate you're British, so you don't jump queues, but do you think you should go ahead of 80-year-old grandma?
I think it is up to our parliamentarians to have that discussion and make that decision.
Okay. I don't know what to say. Best of fortune to you. Thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate you coming on the line. Fred Banning, thank you, who is at the heart of this campaign. You're gaining a lot of support from, as I say, charities and some others as he seeks to find out where the access is for people such as himself, who sadly has just, well, I can't say months to live. Goodness me, that's a tough one, isn't it? Okay. To Dr. Evan Harris, who's former member of the Mental Health Committee and was, of course, Lib Dem MP and Shadow Science Minister, joins me now. Okay, Doctor, pick the bones out of that. What do you say would